Hey guys, welcome to Boxing Squared for boxing news and views from around the internet. Anthony Joshua and Deontay Wilder, they are certainly making a habit of taking verbal jabs at each other. And this time it's Joshua taking aim at the Bronze Bomber with a few barbs. So let's get right into the statements and then a few thoughts. As per BoxingScene.com, see the link in the description. In relation to Deontay Wilder, Anthony Joshua says, "In a career, it's all good going undefeated and looking good, but when it's all said and done, how are people gonna remember you? He hasn't had any memorable fights. There's nothing I can tell you and say, oh, do you remember Deontay Wilder's 29th fight? That was an unbelievable heavyweight fight. Do you know what I mean?" So he really needs a remarkable fight to really stamp his name in the history of heavyweight boxing. That's why I say he needs it a little bit more right now. That guy's been a professional since 2009. I started boxing in 2008. He's been professional a year longer than I've been boxing my whole career. So where I'm coming from is that he needs these fights. He's had 38 fights. He's already on the verge of competing with Floyd Mayweather's record. Do you know where I'm coming from? He needs these fights. It's a different ballgame. The only thing that gives me credibility is the fact that I've gone and unified the division. This is good, and this is why I say that he doesn't need to have a remarkable performance or fight a household name or whatnot to make this fight happen, because he's been doing this thing for so long. But I think the reason why he's more desperate is because boxing fans are calling out, "Wilder, what are you doing? You haven't fought X, and X, and X, and X." And Anthony Joshua, in that same piece, also reiterated he will fight Wilder at some point in 2018, assuming the pair both keep winning. Damn, there's some real fire on that hot sauce that Joshua dropped. So the Brit might have a cheery demeanour and come across respectful when he says these things. But for me, that's really some smiling assassin stuff. Think about it like this. The fight might not be set yet, but this sort of back and forth that has developed, this banter, it is part of the pre-fight build-up. It's creating the beef for us to talk about and keep us interested. These guys are always looking to stoke the fire for potential future fights, even if they don't know if they'll pan out or not. The cynic in me would say that the comments from the other week, you know, the ones that Joshua made about possibly delaying a fight with Wilder for up to 2 years, the cynic in me would say that they were potentially designed to draw out the respective fan bases, to get them going, to gauge the current level of interest in the fight. Remember, someone like Eddie Hearn will have a yardstick that he's measuring against, and when certain factors reach a point, he'll pull the trigger, he'll make a fight. Whether we're at that point right now, or even next year, I mean, it remains to be seen. And I did note with interest from that story, Joshua has certainly pulled back from his comment that the fight could be up to 2 years away, and he expects it to happen in sometime in 2018. I think part of that might be that the whole Joshua is scared to fight Wilder narrative, it was starting to sort of get too much traction in the media and with some fans. And he needed to get the message out there that he wasn't, and that the fight is probably coming up soon. He had to massage that message. And reshaping the time frame to next year, it puts it well and truly on the radar for fans, and it does feel like it's just around the corner, even if it is the best part of a year away potentially. Fans will certainly be more forgiving if they know it's coming up next year, and there might only be 1 or possibly 2 fights ahead of when the pair meet. And especially if they're off doing things like unifying with Joseph Parker, or facing a mandatory, or one of the other big guns in the division, and there's only a couple of them. And consider what we've seen recently. Anthony Joshua has effectively been criticizing Deontay Wilder more than ever before. He's let himself be drawn into making somewhat disparaging comments about the WBC champ. Stuff that until recently he would have steered away from, deftly deflected. And let's not forget, this is a guy who's had extensive media training. He knows what to say and when. He makes calculated moves, and those moves drive his income, drive his brand, and drive his career. So for me, there's no loose words being dropped right now. It's calculated. And what better way to appeal to his own fan base and enrage Wilder's by mentioning things like, there's no point looking good winning, but having fought no one of note, no memorable fights, no signature win. He's goading Wilder by saying he needs the Joshua fight more than Joshua does. Also, he's saying Wilder's boxing legacy is in question right now without a big win to stamp his name in the history books. Joshua also mentions Wilder has been a pro for as long as he's been around in boxing, and that he needs these fights. And also saying that fans are openly questioning Wilder and his record. Because they are. We know they are. And we know that Deontay Wilder is particularly sensitive about his record. And he's been demanding fans do their research. He doesn't think that he's getting a fair go here. So for me, these statements from Joshua, they're designed to hit the headlines. They're designed to flame the developing fire. And let's face it, it's exactly what it's done. The boxing media and YouTubers, including me, we're all lapping it up. Lapping the drama up. Because it's interesting stuff. And it fires up the viewers. And I'm sure you've already decided which fighter you're siding with in this evolving beef. And you're either loving what Joshua said, or you're absolutely hating it. And expect Wilder to hit back, and hit back hard. So Eddie Hearn, Joshua's promoter, he's also been indicating that Wilder can shorten the path, shorten the route to Joshua by going through his other fighter, Dillian Whyte. And it has been a carrot Wilder and his promoter, Lou DiBella, have been vehemently against. But maybe that's just a front. For now. I had a subscriber, and you know who you are, and thank you, who shared a link with me in my last video on Dillian Whyte and Deontay Wilder. Is that fight inevitable? And it was actually, that link took me to an interview that the Boxing Voice had done with Wilder's trainer and manager, Jay Diaz, who said if the money is right, if the terms are right, they are more than willing to go to the UK and fight Whyte. And that fight could happen early next year. So he was pretty upbeat about it. And I was a little surprised given the DiBella stuff and given some of the words Deontay Wilder has said about Dillian Whyte. So it was good to hear that it's not completely off the table. I mean, especially when DiBella had basically said that Dillian Whyte was irrelevant to Deontay Wilder's career. I mean, ultimately it's a business. This offers a good check, and if it guarantees Joshua, which is an even bigger check, well, they'd be silly not to at least consider it. And if it takes one fight and then we see Wilder and Joshua, I can certainly live with that. I'd much prefer unification, Wilder, Joshua, or Parker, any combination of that next, but I realise this whole thing is a business. It doesn't work like that. Sometimes these things marinate for a bit. Sometimes they just need other things to happen before these fights get set up. I did also note with interest that Eddie Hearn is also setting out some of the negotiating parameters in public for a unification fight, for Wilder, for Parker, saying they will not be getting a 50-50 split with Joshua. In no circumstances will that be happening. I kind of think that that's just a commercial reality. I'm not offended by that. Joshua, he would be generating the lion's share of the revenue. So it makes sense that he would take home a bigger check. I mean, I've heard some varying theories about, what sort of per split should be. And somewhere between 30 and 40% seems to be a general consensus of what would be fair and something that could work. And I agree with that. And that's the sort of deal that I could see Hearn making. But only if he made sure that Wilder or Parker aren't getting any cut of any other revenue streams. which for a fight of that nature, the money would be considerable. Think things like broadcasting rights for markets where it's not a pay-per-view, the pay-per-view sales, the live gate, sponsorship, advertising, merchandise, and a whole raft of other things that would no doubt generate some cash and be getting into someone's pocket. So if you can get a percentage of some of that stuff, no doubt it would end up being in the millions. So if you look at the purse, that's just one measure. For a fight like this, a mega fight, it would be huge money. It would be in the millions of dollars. And no doubt that's where Joshua has been undoubtedly making some serious cash in his last couple of fights. Where money is involved, it's going to be a very touchy subject. Setting these fights up, it could be the stumbling block because there's a lot at stake. Let's face it, everyone wants more than their fair share, and sometimes it can be hard to settle on a figure. And unfortunately, that's the business of boxing. But I hope we see these fights. I hope they are soon. 2018 sounds good. If it's 2019, I'd be disappointed. But then again, we thought it was going to be this year. But let's just get them made. Let's get the fights done. Let's start sorting out who are the best guys in the division. Who is elite? Is it Wilder? Is it Joshua? Is it Parker? Is it someone else? What do you make of Joshua's comments? What do you make of all this other stuff? These back and forth between Wilder. The 50-50 split. What would you like to see? Drop a comment. Hit like. Hit subscribe. Follow me on Twitter. Boxing_squared. I'm out.